cases. So first of all, let's run this test serialize, which is doing nothing fancy. It's what we have been doing. So we are creating this market data with filters object and simply setting the state and serializing it to a file. So it should work. So I'm just run this test serialize first. Okay. So as expected, it has serialized and set this stream of byte has been created in the file, in this file test filters test, this one. Okay, and we also see that it's for Apple and it's for market data with filters class. Now let's run this test deserialize based on serial class allowed, where we are only accepting or allowing it only for market data with filters. So we expect that this should also work because we already know that we have serialized only this object in our file. But the interesting information that we'll be seeing here is about all these methods. So let's run this quickly. So I just click on run. Okay, so we see that the serial class that is returning the complete the package along with package name and market data with filters, right? Let me create some more space here. Okay. Array length is -1 because we are not using any array here. And the depth is also 1 because we are not using any object reference. And reference is also 1. Now stream of bytes. The stream bytes, the length is 172, which means that it's 170 is consuming, this Java Pojo object is consuming 172 bytes of heap memory. And as expected, because we are allowing this, we got the good results that all the assertions is good. It's same as what we have stored before. Okay, so now let's write some test case, the other test case where we are rejecting this. So I'll copy this whole method, Control C and Control V. And I will, this time, when I'm deserializing it, the serial class, I would reject it so that we know that what is the exception thrown and it works correctly. Okay, got rejected. And I will change this as rejected as well. Okay, now let's make some changes here. So I don't need to print this information again because we already did it in the previous test case. So Control Y. Okay, and what the change I will do is that I will just mark it as rejected instead of allowed. Okay, I can simply remove Alt Enter, replace with lambda. Okay, maybe I will put it in another line so that it's visible, and as well as this one. Okay, so here in the previous test case, we are printing all this information and then only returning when the serial class is same as this market data with filters, then it was allowed. The only change that we have done here is that if the serial class is equal to this, then it should be rejected. So we expect that this should be failing in this our object input filter validation and will get a rejected state. So it also means that this OAS.readObject, that will not work and it should throw some exception. And that exception is actually invalid class exception. So to capture this and assert this, we will assert on the throws. So let me first of all remove all this. We don't need all this. And okay, maybe I will just okay. So I will just mark assert throws. This is how we actually assert on any particular exception, and we should know that this should be invalid class exception dot class, and I can simply call this readObject. readObject. I'm using a method reference. So this, when we call this, because we are rejecting it, so it should throw this exception. And let me also remove Control Y, make some space here. Okay. And let me do Control-Alt-V so that we know that what is the exception. I will just simply mark it as exception. And this should be final throwable, maybe final var is good. Okay, this is throwing invalid class exception. Now let's also check what should be the message, exception message. Let me copy assert equals from some example. Okay, and here we can put exception dot get message, and it should be something as this, which I'm typing here: filter status rejected. So let's run this test case now. I will remove this as well. Alt enter, remove this. Okay. And so we should be rejected, and it should throw invalid class exception with this message: filter stays as rejected. Let me run this. It's running. Okay, so the test passed, which means that here in our object input filter, we already marked it correctly, that because we were returning this market data with filters, which was serialized to our file, and we were sure that this is what which is going to be returned. And using this equal operator, we knew that this is a class, and then we rejected it. And once we call this readObject method, I mean, before this readObject object was created here, before that it was already in a rejected state, and it threw invalid class exception. And we also knew that this is what the exception message is: filter status as rejected. Now let's write some more test cases, not just based on serial class, because we already learned that we can also choose other methods. So let's try this stream bytes. Okay,